Hey Jake, thank you for the time. Just one question for me. Ben Askren was here earlier, obviously speaking to us, and he said that he was carrying the lion's share of the promotion and that you weren't really doing your part. Can you just sort of respond to that? Do you think you've put in at least 50% of the effort for promoting this fight?
So this guy has 21 fights, right? And all of a sudden, this is the biggest payday of his career, and there's a reason for that. Um, you know, Ben Askren had his dick in his hand in Wisconsin, not doing shit. I brought him out of retirement, revived his career, and so I think it's hilarious that he thinks that. He's under these bright lights in front of all of you because of me. I could have picked anybody, anybody to be in Ben Askren's position, and everyone that I fight becomes a global superstar for 15 minutes. Then I knock them out, and no one ever talks about them again. So yeah, Ben Askren can think what he wants. He's got about 48 hours left until no one talks about him anymore.
Great. Thank you, Shaquille. And next up is Theo Salon with a follow.
Hey Jake. So you mentioned wanting to challenge yourself but also have fun. And I know that you've got your eyes set on guys like Conor McGregor. But are there any kind of more fun kind of influencers that you are interested in fighting moving forward, like guys on Twitch, or even TikTok or YouTube streamers, stuff like that?
Yeah. There's a company right now that wants to pay me an absurdly large amount of money to fight an influencer. So I'll gladly go knock out these guys for money. I've developed a skill now, right? And that skill is fighting. And if someone wants to pay to see my skill and use my name, which is one of the biggest names in combat sports right now, then I'll gladly pick up the bag.
All right. Next up is Donna Corby.
Hey Jake, I want to ask you about last Friday, your final sparring session ahead of this fight. You were in there with Charlie Decca, who's a 3-0 pro, and the great Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor, a famous internet troll, a guy in the MMA community who is divisive. Can you talk to me a bit about your final sparring session with the great Pretty Boy?
Yeah, it was good. Like I said, these guys are all better than Ben. I think he was doing some interviews after the sparring session and was like, it was good and he was better than I expected, and he's fast, and I landed some good shots. No, you didn't. You got your ass beat, my friend. And all respect to you, I know we're not supposed to talk about sparring as boxers, but if you're gonna go out there and say it was an even sparring match, when we watch back the tape, it's not even close. But of course, he's gonna say that it was decent and all this stuff, and protect himself. Obviously, that footage probably will never come out, and it's he said, she said. But I'm getting I'm getting the better of a lot of these MMA guys, and it's funny to just see what they say after the sparring sessions.
Yourself and your brother's relationship, obviously the public are always going to conflate you two. We saw him on The Masked Singer. They thought that he was going to be you. But it seems like he's back in the mainstream after a few years, in the wilderness. And you are paving this path in boxing. Maybe he's going to fight Floyd, maybe not. It seems like your relationship with him is as nicely separate now as it probably has ever been. Is that a fair assessment?
I think we're yin and yang, and I think while we're both individuals at the same time, we're on the same team. So it's this really weird parallel, and I think it's the rise of the Pauls 2.0. I mean, who's doing it?
All right, Donna, thank you very much. Now back to Jake Bennett.
Hey, Jake. So there's going to be millions of people watching online, and it's projected to break some big pay-per-view records. but is it strange for you to be at such a massive venue like Mercedes-Benz Stadium, even though there's going to be an extremely limited crowd?
Yeah, it's weird. I wish there would be a crowd. The fight energy isn't the same. When I knocked out Nate Robinson, the whole arena was silent. Like you could hear a pin drop, and it's weird, but obviously we're making do with it. And hopefully for my next fight, we can have an audience and make it turn.
All right, and now we have Boxing Social.
Hey Jake, a couple more questions for me. As you delve deeper into the sport, like the risk gets bigger. You're fighting Ben, who has real fight pedigree. I saw one of your videos. You had like a visit to the doctors who talked about like the damage that you've received already. Are you worried about, as you take more risks, the effects you've experienced and what could come?
Yes and no. It's a dangerous sport, and that's why when people question my dedication to it, it's like I'm showing up every single day. I'm putting my mental health on the line. My brain is on the line. I like you said, I've gone and gotten brain scans and have early signs of CTE, but I love this sport and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And I'm a fighter, and people will see that, whether it's after Saturday night or whether it's a year from now, that they will see that I'm a fighter.
You talked about dealing with things mentally. You've had to deal with stuff in the lead up, that's including the loss of someone personal to you. Do you carry that into the fight, and are you dedicating your performance to Shadow, who you lost quite recently?
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And it's a shock to all of us in the team, and it's deeply affected us. And it's hard without him. When you're with someone every single day and you live with them, and they're, he was a father figure to me in many ways and had my back 24/7. And yeah, he's gone now, and I've never experienced something like that before. But he would want me to go out there and knock this guy out, and he predicted a first round knockout in 2 minutes and 28 seconds. And so for some reason, I think that's going to happen. And man, yeah, I wish he was here. I wish he was here, but he will be here in spirit. And I think a lot of the emotions will sort of hit me after this fight, because I've been sort of trying to suppress it to stay strong.
Next up is Damon Martin.
Hey, Jake, just a couple follow-ups here. You mentioned you were kind of looking forward to Dana White losing $1 million on this fight. Obviously, you're fighting Ben Askren, a UFC veteran fighter. You want to fight Conor McGregor. Do you have fun kind of getting the animosity with the MMA guys, or is it just like that's just the rivalries you've been building so far? Like, what is it with you in the MMA community that you've been so entrenched in that?
I'm just having fun, and trolling, and I've sort of purposely pitted the MMA community against me, so they tune into this fight. Ta-da! It worked.
Is that, we talk about your future fights? You mentioned Conor. I mean, obviously that would be massive. But is Conor the only guy? I mean, I think you mentioned somewhere that if Dustin Poirier beats him, you'd also be interested in that fight.
Yeah, Conor's the big name, right? He's a A-list celebrity, and there's very few fighters who are A-list celebrities. So, we'll see what happens. I hope he wins against Dustin, I guess, so that the fight becomes more exciting.